There is a massive issue in Jujutsu Kaisen right now. Because of Yuta, Gojo is back, and people are calling this a character assassination. Some others are calling it an ass pull. Yuji, who seemingly had the upper hand just 2 chapters ago, has now been sidelined and no one is talking about this. The break week is only just starting and the entire community is on full throttle lobotomy mode. Now listen, I think a lot of people fundamentally misunderstand everything that has been happening, and it's fine. That's why I am here. With that said, these are the key things this video will address. First things first, why do people even think Yuta is inhumane? The simple answer is Yuta took Gojo's body, turning him into a weapon once more. We were already under the impression that Gojo was a weapon for the Jujutsu Society. In fact, it has been hinted throughout the story. Yuta bringing Gojo back in this way really hammers down that point. But there is something everyone needs to understand before putting Yuta on the chopping block, which is this chapter gave us additional depth to Gojo's character. And honestly, I don't know how people are unable to see it. In this very chapter, Gojo is categorized as a monster, and it makes so much sense. Akin to a monster, he is immensely powerful. His birth literally caused the forced evolution of curses, which leads right into the loneliness of Gojo. Right from the start of Jujutsu Kaisen, Satoru Gojo was lonely, and Gege did a perfect job in illustrating this through his powers. Limitless gives Gojo distance from everyone else. I think it's subtle, but it's exactly what a great writer does.
And this theme of loneliness was still in play throughout his fight with Sukuna. Ever since Geto left, Gojo has never really had someone that truly understood him. As he once said, you can admire a flower, but you can't tell it to understand you. And I think all this applies with one exception, and that exception is Yuta. But this exception doesn't change one thing, which is Gojo was and still is a weapon, but so is Yuta. It's insane that people would think Yuta is dehumanizing Gojo when he quite literally is the only one that was prepared to share all of Gojo's burdens. I mean, let's look at it through Yuta's POV. Everyone says Gojo is a weapon. Then that's fine. I'll put everything into becoming Gojo for 5 minutes and probably die after that. I'll become a weapon just like he was. People aren't understanding the sacrifice that Yuta is also making. He could have used Rika's full manifestation and reverse curse technique to restore his body, but why do that when he can jump into Gojo's body if it gives him a chance of beating the strongest sorcerer in history? Yuta is willing to sacrifice the shred of humanity he has for the sake of others, for the sole purpose of making everyone understand that Gojo wasn't a monster, and even if he wasn't the only monster. As a matter of fact, Gojo's dream was for the next generation of sorcerers that he's been fostering to be greater than himself, but also not to feel the pain of isolation he and Geto went through. And by puppeting Gojo's body, going above and beyond against Sukuna, Yuta is quite literally accomplishing Gojo's dream. This is the most human thing anyone can do. But this brings me to the main issue I have with this chapter that no one seems to be talking about. Why is Yuji being thrown aside yet again? Let's look at the chain of events. In chapter 256, we saw the beginning of Yuji's awakening. In chapter 257, we are told that there is potential in Yuji to be on par with Sukuna. Sukuna was even quivering in his boots after seeing Yuji go band for band with him and obliterating the former Black Flash record. And then Yuji, with help from Todo, put Sukuna in a very tight spot that he was finna use domain expansion again, and that's when Gota shows up. Now look what happens. Sukuna yeets my man away with one single punch, and that was the end of the story. Nigga, Yuji has been eating punch after slash after domain expansion from Sukuna, and he always got back up. But the moment Gojo is back in the story, it seems like Yuta is just about to be written out, which is really weird and underwhelming to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think the idea of Gota versus Sukuna is quite good, but the way Yuji is getting cast aside again is really my issue. The only way I can rationalize this is by saying Yuji was in shock from seeing his dead sensei, and the extreme focus Sukuna described Yuji having faded away instantly. Also, he has been getting assists throughout his brawl with Sukuna, which I think paints a picture that even though he has potential, he isn't quite on Sukuna's level yet. I mean, he just got a new technique after all. So my theory is he will probably step back in when the first domain expansion clash between Gota and Sukuna happens, and that's when we may see our boy pull out his own domain expansion. Or maybe Gota has to die and then Yuji will have another reawakening session. Or Gojo's dream will be realized when everyone fights together and actually defeats Sukuna together. And speaking of Gota, how does Yuta using Gojo's body make any sense? Because I have seen people say dumb shit of how it makes no sense. Let me break it down for you. Kenjaku's technique is body hopping. In chapter 243, Yuta killed Kenjaku by means of a surprise attack. Numerous times throughout the series, we have been told that Yuta's curse technique is the ability to copy that of others. He literally used that power to copy Kenjaku's technique and used the said technique to hop into Gojo's body. Kenjaku once said Yuta will never replace Gojo, and guess what? All in all, I think the Yuta plot twist was kind of hinted at. Not enough to call it foreshadowing, but it's funny how Gege does these little things throughout the story. Always comparing Yuta to Gojo, always saying Yuta is second to Gojo. Speaking of plot twists, I know one awesome plot twist that involves the Darkest Knight himself and his trusted butler. Yes, I'm talking about Batman and Alfred. You can watch that video right here, so just click this link and I'll see you there.